Good morning, good morning. How are you? It's a wet old day. It's been wet for a long time. So, Wednesday morning, just done the drop off. I've got a funny day today. We've got some time reserved for lab work. I've got a lady coming in for a lower sort of partial denture, which is all her teeth except the lower threes, which I need to do a setup. And I've got an appointment with a new accountant at 12 o'clock because I'm thinking of changing to a more local accountant. Accountants are a funny thing. They're a bit like engineers in that if you've got one who's sort of, I don't know, disrespecting you a bit by just taking money off you for not doing much. They don't talk much. You can always tell if you've got a bad engineer because you not only do you sort of give him the car with problems and he fixes the main problem but completely ignores all the secondary problems, but also doesn't talk much. Will only grunt in response to your questions in a way that sort of indicates that he'd rather not talk at this time. My garage is I'm in two minds about my garage because they did replace my daughter's brake pads and shoes and everything, and then whopped another £200 on for wheel nuts, new wheel nuts. Whereas they told me I needed a new steering rack, which is about £1,100, and because of the wheel nut fiasco, I got a second opinion. But sure enough, it was the wheel. It was the steering rack that was the problem. But then they whacked another £200 on for new brakes and pads on the front wheels. So it seems to me that whatever you go in for, they find something else that costs £200 to add on top, which is a lot. I mean, for considering that they work, say, 250 days a year, that's another 50 grand turnover, isn't it, as far as they're concerned? The problem with motor trade is it's intangible, a bit like dentistry is. I've resolved my problem with Hayes, this travel agent, you'll be pleased to know. It only cost me £300 more, but we've negotiated a deal. It was largely my hand was forced because when I looked into it, despite what I've been shouting about and jumping up and down on the phone with them about, your holidays and hotels are exempt from the 14-day cooling off period. So be warned, when you book a holiday, you've booked the holiday. You lose your deposit if you don't go. There's no way around it. I mean, there may be other ways around it. Lawyers will tell you there are other ways around it. I mean, you could ask for your deposit back from the credit card company on the grounds that the goods were never delivered. You could make a claim on the grounds that they rebooked the holiday, that they resold it, therefore they suffered no loss. There are always ways around things, but anyway, the main thing is that that's all settled and behind me now. So I've got a bit of a sigh of relief that I don't have that as a problem. So not this car, my wife's car is now steering correctly and braking correctly, so that's good. But tangibility, no, it's like, I mean, if you look back through a few videos, you'll see a comment from someone who says, I've been told I've got gums problems and I need a root filling. What do you think? And my answer was, well, what do you think about what? What do I think about? What if I know anything to think anything about? I've never examined your teeth and I don't know who your dentist is. So, I mean, he could be the best or the worst dentist in the world for all I know. So I said, what you need to do is get another dentist through recommendation or, and if necessary, a third opinion or whatever. And then at some stage you have to trust your dentist because you can't do it yourself because it's intangible. I said, or rather flippantly, I said, which is my problem. This is my problem. Right. I'll tell you what my problem is. Okay. Just in case you don't know, or you may have your own opinion, but my problem is I just always push things slightly too far. And so rather flippantly, at the end of it, I said, Or you could wait until your face swells up and your teeth fall out. And then, that's another option, And really, it is another option. Do you know what? Because I'm very logical. I'm just like, I grew up programming computers, and I love the logicality of computer programs. There's a determinism about computer programming that affects your outlook on life, I think. That's why so many, I think, young men like computer programming, because you ask a computer to do something, not only does it do it, but it does every time you tell it to do the same thing, it does the same thing again. So my my angry GPT list of ways that you could deal with a problem like that would include doing nothing, because we are encouraged to say do nothing, aren't we? We're encouraged to say to the patients, what will happen if you do nothing? The indemnifiers like us to say that doing nothing is an option. Now, originally that arose out of a desire by the Department of Health to force dentists to say that a lot of treatments were optional. In other words, especially following the advice they obtained from Bernard Kieser, the periodontal geezer, that most gum treatment is unnecessary because having plaque and calculus stroke scale on your teeth doesn't really cause you to lose teeth. I mean, that was a priceless bit of advice. And so what the Department of Health wanted dentists to do was say, look, I can restore this tooth with a filling or a crown, but you don't have to have the crown. The filling will be fine. Or, I can whiten your teeth, but it's optional. You don't have to have your teeth whitened. It's a cosmetic job. And then the indemnifiers are on us from the other side saying, you've got to tell the patients what will happen if they don't have anything done. Because, for example, supposing a patient needs a root filling and you give them antibiotics, they come back and say the pain's gone away. I've decided not to have the root filling. You've cured the problem, doctor. Well done. Thank you so much. So, but you have to say, look, if you don't have this tooth root treated, then in the short to medium term, your face is going to swell up and you will definitely need the root filling. And in the meantime, you might even lose the tooth. And that stops the patients going, making a case against you saying, well, Angry didn't tell me. Angry didn't tell me if I didn't have the root treatment done, I'd lose the tooth. Angry just sort of said, well, okay, you don't want the root treatment done, then that's fine. I'm pleased that you're not in pain, etc., goodbye. Whereas what Angry should have done was said, look, not having the root treatment done is a stupid idea, and I'm going to write it down in the notes that you decided to do it. Don't let them off the hook, The patient's always looking to have the minimum done. They're always looking to micromanage their treatment. And they're always looking to, perhaps not make the next appointment or not pay for the next item of treatment that they need. And so you've got to keep them going by saying, okay, right now, you've still got 2 fillings to do on your treatment plan. Don't forget, if you leave them, they'll just get bigger, and then they'll be more expensive and difficult to treat, and you might end up needing 2 root treatments instead of 2 fillings, or even losing the teeth. So if you book them or not, it's up to you, but don't say you didn't know what the consequence is going to be. The Epstein thing continues to rumble on. I think, here am I, I'm going to go the extra mile, okay? I am fed up with the Epstein thing. I'm fed up with it. We've just got a new class of victims, haven't we? We've got a new bunch of victims. They are a victim class, like the people who had the HIV-infected blood scandal, like the post office sub-postmasters, like the waspy women, Let me just concentrate on this roundabout because it's a little bit on the busy side. I mean, you name it. You could probably name another 2, at least, classes of victims. Now, I'm not saying these victims are undeserving. I think some of them are more deserving than others. And there is how can I put it? There is a risk averseness now in the modern generation, which means that they look to the state to reimburse them monetarily should anything go wrong with their lives. Should they, and I think there are circumstances where it is appropriate for the state to reimburse class groups where the state has been negligent and has fallen down on the job. But I was watching an episode of on YouTube now. There's a fantastic load of old telly, and one of the series that they're re-showing is called Spender, and it was about a fictional detective played by Jimmy Nail, who's instantly recognisable, who was one of the building workers in a series called Auf Wiedersehen, Pet, which a lot of people will remember. And I mean, an ugly bloke, a spectacularly ugly bloke, and he wouldn't probably dispute it, although that doesn't seem really to matter too much when it came to the women. But anyway, the whole plot of this detective, he plays a detective who's from Newcastle and Sunderland and is sent back up there undercover from the Metropolitan Police. And his case, the latest case, was about a nightclub which was serving as an agency for dancers and entertainers, and would audition the dancers and then place them with clubs and on cruise lines who needed dancers. And where the criminal part came in was because they were there was a sort of a underbelly of trafficking, whereby these young girls were told that they were going on a cruise liner, but then they would stop in Spain, and then they would be given an offer to go and dance in a nightclub in Spain. Then they would find that they were being asked to do more than just dance, etc., etc. And one of them had, when realizing that she was trapped like this, had killed herself. And so he went to investigate all this. Now, the parallels between the plot of that in the 1970s and what Epstein did, whatever you want to call him, they resonate quite a lot. And when you realise that this was an issue, it was an issue in the 70s, and we are now 50 years later, and it's still an issue. But the point is, the present generation is now acting as though this is a new thing. This is the first time this has ever happened. And of course, it's not. Anyone with any life experience, no brake light, anyone with any life experience will tell you that this is absolutely not the first time that anything like this has ever happened. And anyone with any life experience and sense will tell you that this sort of thing has always gone on. I mean, I'm not talking about the government side of it, the Christine Keeler type leaking government secrets side of it. I'm talking about the rich old men and young attractive women, in their teens. This is when I was younger. I mean, there was Hugh Hefner, wasn't there, in the Playboy house? There was Peter Stringfellow had a nightclub, didn't he? where I'm not alleging that anything illegal went on in either of those places. But I mean, I'm just saying that you have to be a bit naive to think that this is a new thing. It's not a new thing at all. Very wealthy, elderly men will go to great lengths, if they're wealthy, to get their hands on young women. And to a certain extent, young women are, I mean, we don't these days, I mean, everyone's frowned upon if their marriage is more than sort of 5 years between the two partners in the marriage, and the man's got to be about 5 years older than the woman, etc. But that wasn't always the case. And it certainly isn't the case in a lot of the rest of the world. So, I mean, look at Berlusconi and these Bunga Bunga parties. These things are, you know, they're legendary, but they're not, they continue. Do you know what I mean? They just continue. My point I'm trying to make is that I don't approve of this, because I think that, of course, there is an element of coercion. And of course, young girls, and probably boys for all I know, are naive in that they don't realize that the danger that they are in, you know. They probably know enough not to get in a stranger's car, but they don't know probably enough not to get on a stranger's yacht. And they don't know enough not to get on a stranger's island. And that's why the rich own yachts and island, don't they? Because they're islands, because it's their personal fiefdom, isn't it? They are, you know, a benevolent or not so benevolent dictator aboard or on shore, an environment which they can completely control. And I can see how a woman or a young girl in her teens is going to think that there is no help if she's being coerced to do something that she would really rather not do, especially when she's among a group of people who are, you know, she thinks are not really going to back her up if she makes a complaint, where it's going to end up with a lot of people saying, no, that's not how it happened, and she was there of her own free will, and yes, there was consent. And it becomes a case of her word against theirs. So now I'm not blaming the women. I'm not blaming. I was just saying, I think their only problem is they gravitate towards the high life. You know, they would, rather than studying at the local poly, of course they would be happier lying round the pool in Bermuda or somewhere, you know, getting a tan and having a servant whatever drinks they like, and looking forward to getting dressed up in a frock and going out to some sort of function in the evening, etc., etc. I suppose it's an aspirational lifestyle, but it's just, you know what they say, if it's too good to be true, the chances are it's too good to be true. But these women are naive, and and the people who abuse them, I think, should be punished. But please don't say it's unique, or it's unusual, or it's was unforeseen, or that the authorities don't turn a blind eye to this, because they have always, the rich and the shameless have always managed to get the authorities. There's been a certain amount of deference to them, you know, to not to take action. Whereas you and I did a fraction of what they got up to, we'd be banged up in the scrubs before you can say take him down. So society's sick, but society is not only sick from the point of view of this sort of thing going on and continuing to go on. It's sick in the hysteria. I'm fed up with being told what to think. Every morning you turn on the telly, Epstein, 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 Mandelson, 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 Epstein, 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 Trump, 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 Epstein, Epstein. Really, I mean, seriously, is there nothing else in the world? I mean, American consumer debt has just hit a new high. American business defaults have just hit a new high. Now, these are signs of a world that's creaking, that's really straining, that's in real trouble. And yet there are people, they're obsessed with sexual peccadillos of one bloke who was, was arguably running an intelligence operation. It was all like, I know you. Can you introduce me to him or her? And then when you know him or her, who can they introduce me to? He was they used to say, Epstein was a prolific networker. That's what he does. He was like Dale Carnegie in a way. He was the evil Dale Carnegie. He wanted to win friends and influence people, but not in a good way. And he was funded by Wexner. If you look, he had two major donors. He was a fund manager, and he was awarded large amounts of money by them to manage their funds. I think $170 million in one case, in 1 year. And I mean, he must have been a fantastic fund manager, mustn't he, to have had a commission of that size in 1 year. Let's let you go. Go on, off you go. Go on, off you go. No, you don't want to go. No, you don't want to go. No, you stay there then. Anyway. No, I'm upset because I think the trouble is that the public is at the moment is hysterical, but they seem to be in a state of permanent hysteria now. When not including HIV, millennium bug, BSE, COVID, and now the plight of a bunch of victims who, for one reason or another, found themselves on an island with no recourse to. It didn't have its own police force, or rather did, but was less than sympathetic to their complaints. Anyway, let them sue Epstein's estate. Let them sue Epstein's estate. Arguably, our involvement with it is far more centered around the leaking of government internal memos and information to that were commercially sensitive to people who really shouldn't have been privy to knowledge at that level inside government, and the people who betrayed their duty of trust and confidence to share that information. But that's the problem, isn't it? If we all get a bit of information, a little tidbit of information, you burst, don't you? You're like, I've got to share it with someone. I've got all this secret stuff. Not secret, but I know this and I know this, and so who could I sort of say, don't tell anyone, but don't tell anyone I told you, but. And Mandelson seems to have been particularly prone to that, to our disadvantage, to the whole country's disadvantage. Anyway, he denies any wrongdoing, which I'd like to put that on the record. He denies any wrongdoing, and he denies knowing about any wrongdoing. So that'll keep his lawyers happy. All right, nice to talk to you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.